All right, everybody, welcome back to Beans No Ball here for Week 15 recap. See, definitely both gonna have some very opinionated things to say about our games here. Let's just get started with definitely quite the game here on Thursday night.
Yeah, man. There's not really much to go over this game. I was I guess baffled. 12 minutes into the first quarter, the Raiders already have 21 points. It's already a bloodfest. The Chargers are obviously stumbled, especially with the loss of Justin Herbert, and this just proved that we already talked about the video with the Chargers finally firing Brandon Staley, which is a very good step in the right direction for the offseason. Obviously, how I had my takes on Justin Herbert about him, not being able to, live up to the expectation of what he is. But this just really showed how the Chargers are without their starting quarterback. And, it does give me a glimpse of how, the Cowboys were without Dak Prescott, how the Packers were without Aaron Rodgers that one year in 2017. So it just shows, the accountability a team will have to go through without their starting quarterback. And Justin Herbert, it just shows, sure, would it have been a different game if Justin Herbert were to start? Yes. But obviously, with him being out for the rest of the season, it's really gonna, plummet the Chargers as a whole. But it's gonna be a good draft pick for them. Hopefully, get more weapons for Justin Herbert, or even improve that O-line as well. And for the Raiders, Antonio Pierce, he's looking great as their coach. Who knows that maybe he could be their next fully actual head coach instead of just being the interim until they actually find one. But from the looks of it, we talked about before, culture change within that Raiders team and a lot to go through. It's just that quarterback situation. Aiden O'Connell, he did have a good game against the Bucky Chargers defense, but still, I'm not going to downplay his game. Who knows? Maybe, in the future, he could potentially be their quarterback, but, it's still early to tell.
Yeah, obviously, the way you've seen this team, you can honestly think, they're maybe a quarterback away, see whether free agency or a pretty big trade, they could honestly make a lot of noise next season. But of course, let's move it into our Saturday showdown, our triple header on Saturday, and open it up with a great overtime game here in the Vikings and the Bengals. Obviously, just like week one in 2022, the Vikings and the Bengals do go to overtime, and it ends the exact same way with an Evan McPherson field goal. Obviously, he has a knack for the big moment in overtime. And let's talk about Jake Browning, man. Just he continues to do it. Just phenomenal. The stat line speaks for itself at over 302 touchdowns, which obviously, he did have that interception that, it could have proven to be an issue, but obviously it didn't. Just overall, you even think about, they didn't have Jamar Chase for, I believe, was it the whole fourth quarter, I believe, when he went out, or at least from overtime and on, he was out. So, the Bengals keep finding a way to win. I believe it's 3 in a row to this point. Just a phenomenal look for the Bengals to this point. They're back up, I believe, at the 6th seed. So, contrary to our belief, they are very much in the playoff picture. We'll wait and see. A lot of teams seem to be dropping out from that AFC, so just wait and see. And for the Vikings, it starts looking from bad to worse. At the moment, they do hold that 6th seed because of their conference record, but they're with a relatively tough schedule to remain. They are in a very tough position that they could fall out of the playoff picture.
Yeah, like you said, Jake Browning, he's really getting done for this Bengals team, really making a push for the playoffs. Really, with Jamar Chase, missing some time with some injury, it's really going to affect them in the long run. But with the way Jake Browning has been playing, he could be the potential spot to get to that 7th seed. Now moving on to probably another disappointing game from this team in specific, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Once again, this whole game was showing glimpses of their offense struggling. Sure, they had I believe it was a 13-point lead in the first half, up to date, but also, they ended up choking that league, and the Indianapolis Colts ended up coming back in a nice, pretty great way to win the game. But even without Matt Canada, which, everyone, they were 6-3 with Matt Canada, and, with poor offensive strategies, and the defense was really keeping him in the game. But once again, with the departure of Matt Canada, sure, that one game, they finally, 400 yards of total offense. And then after that, like you said, I didn't want to base that one game saying, oh, Steelers are for sure back. And look what happened. These last couple of games, they haven't been living up to the expectations without Matt Canada, and then with the loss of Kenny Pickett, Mr. Trubisky, he's not, fulfilling the role of the quarterback. Mason Rudolph did have to come later in this game. It was looking like Mason Rudolph was kind of, picking it up for the Steelers once again, but Gardner Minshew-led Colts team was really getting it done, and I don't know, you're pretty happy with this as well. Michael Pittman finally showing some good glimpses of him finally getting to an elite category for this receiver in this league, and especially with this Colts team with the receivers, they're not they're not, a top receiver team, but another thing to look at is Josh Downs. He's finally, picking it up, which is really great to see for this Colts team. A very young team. Gardner Minshew, this is pretty much the story of this team, leading them to, potentially the playoffs. I think they're in the wild card, if I'm not mistaken, or just a little bit outside of that. But regardless of that, they're really making a huge push. And really, their only competition with that is obviously the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are coming into a very huge decline, and then the Cincinnati Bengals, really pushing them for that other wild card spot.
Yeah, but I mean, if we're really looking, I mean, we see right now, I mean, we're definitely gonna get into it once again, but that AFC South three-way tie at the top, and we'll see how the teams move, but the Colts definitely have a very real chance to come away with that division. Of course, the last game of this Saturday triple header, a game that we definitely got completely wrong here with the Broncos and the Lions. I mean, Russ did not cook. It was a very disappointing outing for the Broncos, and I mean, could be honestly more of a statement win for the Lions, as we've kind of come to see they've been disappointing for a while. This was, my main point that I talked about being my highlight game. The Lions have kind of been looking really vulnerable as of late. But now, I mean, obviously, put up 42 on a very good defense here, which I considered Pat Surtain and Amon-Ra St. Brown to be one of the bigger matchups. And I mean, we see Amon-Ra got into the end zone. He had a phenomenal game with over 100 yards. So I mean, this Lions offense, it keeps clicking. And in this game, the defense is what stepped up, and that obviously is going to be the difference at times. And if this defense does step up in ways that they did here, they definitely can be formidable in the playoffs. It's just, to wait and see if they can actually do that. And for the Broncos, I mean, sure, this is a really tough loss to look into, but I mean, I'm not too worried about them. I mean, they did slip out of the playoff picture right now. A lot of teams are really vying for that, but I mean, more than anything, we already talked about this. The Broncos, they're kind of building for the next year.
Yeah, it was nice to see the Broncos, were making a push for this playoffs team the way Russ has been performing. But, these last couple of games, Broncos are starting to come into a very slight decline. And obviously Detroit, coming off strong in a very great statement win here. And now moving on to another, I guess you could say another statement win here, is this Joe Flacco-led Browns team. Joe Flacco, he, stats aside, he led the Browns when it really mattered. But the 3 interceptions is what really killed them in the early game against the Chicago Bears team. The Chicago Bears, with the way Justin Fields was playing, with the way the whole offense was rolling, the defense was picking it up really what they were looking like. I thought they're gonna get away with this win here, which I wouldn't assume it would have been a win for them. I would have just regrouped for next season, even though they do own the first pick. But obviously Joe Flacco really putting it on where it really matters, and he's getting everyone involved. And nice to see Amari Cooper, obviously former Cowboy of mine, get a touchdown, which pretty much sealed the deal for the victory there. And then obviously the other play of the game, which was that last attempt Hail Mary, man. I mean, the ball was there. Justin Fields threw a perfectly good ball, and Darnell Mooney, man, it was right in your hands. You just had to make the grab, but obviously, he couldn't get it down, and obviously it would have been a huge momentum change for the Chicago Bears team, for playoff implications, because they still have a chance. Do not get me wrong, but they're very, very slim. But even if with that win, they would have still had to ask for a lot, but who knows? Anything can happen any given Sunday, but expectation for that would have been a little too high for that. But this Cleveland Browns team, they're really looking good in this AFC North. Obviously, that division, pretty much not up for grabs with the way the Ravens have been playing, obviously. So my prediction with the Ravens coming away with the North could most likely fulfill the needs with that. But the Browns, they're looking really good with Joe Flacco. It's just the interceptions, and he's really got to be a little bit more timing with his passes.
Yeah, and I mean, for the Bears, they're playing with house of money right now. I mean, we see the Panthers are probably going to lock them up that number 1 pick. So, I mean, just see what you got for the next couple games. And, yeah, if Fields proves enough, you might as well go get Marvin Harrison with that number 1 pick. Of course, let's move it into the Buccaneers and the Packers. And, Baker Mayfield, what more can you say here? I mean, the narrative has been, his last time with the Browns, went into Lambeau in December and lost. With the Rams last season, went into Lambeau in December and lost, and he finally got it done in Lambeau. And obviously great to see for us. Obviously love to see Baker succeed. And hey, for the Rams playoff implications, this loss for the Packers does mean a lot. This does sneak us back in, which I'll get into that again later. But I mean, just a phenomenal game for Baker. 4 touchdowns. I mean, just phenomenal from him. Obviously almost cracked 400 yards, and just an all-around phenomenal game for the Buccaneers. I mean, I mean, the way things are looking right now, they could end up sneaking in a positive record going into, I mean, going into the playoffs. They're looking more and more like the favorite to win the NFC South, and I mean, we'll see. Maybe they can make some noise against whoever wins the East. Which, whether I mean, whoever doesn't win the East, whether it's the Eagles or the Cowboys that get into that five. But I mean, a great time for the Buccaneers to be picking up that steam, and for the Packers, very much a disappointing loss to say the least. This was going to be one of those games that really solidified their playoff spot, and maybe those calls for Jordan Love already being back could be a little premature, but as we say, it could be still to wait and see. But honestly just a very disappointing loss for the Packers right here.
Yeah, obviously this was all Baker, man. Arguably one of his best games of his career, and it's really great to see for this Tampa Bay team. But with the way the NFC South is, this division is still for grabs for the Bucks, the Saints, and the Atlanta Falcons. Now moving on to the next game, which was, I guess you could consider it a thriller, especially with the backup quarterback in mind that we've seen here, Case Keenum. He will remain as a starter for this Texans team with CJ Stroud out for who knows how long. I don't know if it was season ending, especially with the for the next couple last remaining games to happen. Hopefully he can make the return for next season. For the next game, but obviously it's still game time, still waiting to see here. But Case Keenum, it really looked like Levis, he was cooking with his Titans with the Titans early in the game here. They're looking really well. Some of his throws were a little iffy. Some decision making was a little off for me. They could have put him more up than the board, and then obviously getting it done where it really mattered. And then Case Keenum really coming back for this Houston Texans team. I'm really keeping them alive in the playoffs. With the Titans, the playoff implications, they're still alive. Don't get me wrong, but it was just a little hard. They're a little less now, especially with this loss coming into this Houston team. And really, this Houston team led by Case Keenum, I really doubt it's going to be another Case Keenum, masterclass of what he did with Minnesota when that one season. Who knows if he ends up having a Nick Foles type season? Really doubt it. I think that's just a too stretch, but just a funny little thing to point out there, and not really gonna doubt that's gonna happen, especially with the last remaining games the Texans had. But it was a nice, hard fought win for this Houston Texans team, and it really feels great for Case Keenum. I would assume.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, CJ Stroud was confirmed out for the next game, so obviously we will get to see Case Keenum keep it going. So wait and see. Obviously, that AFC South is absolute dogfight right now, so we'll just wait and see who comes out on top. And move it into the East here with the Jets and the Dolphins. Never really much in doubt. No Tyreek, no problem for the Dolphins here, shutting out the Jets 30-0. Another one just like the Bucks, just an all-out, great win offensively. I mean, Tua, maybe not the numbers that we were used to at the beginning of the season, but still over 200, only one touchdown, sure, but I mean, he managed his way to a great win. Obviously, Raheem Mostert probably the big piece on offense. I mean, with not too good on yards, but getting into the end zone 2 times, that was probably one of the bigger differences in this game. And sure, Jalen Waddle, with no Tyreek, he was obviously the focal point on offense, at least on the receiving end, and I mean, he did what he needed to do for his part. And for the Jets, obviously they have finally been eliminated from playoff contention. Still all the word about Aaron Rodgers. He probably now, word is he probably won't be cleared until a couple weeks, and he probably, I mean, let's just be realistic. With them being eliminated, they kind of just threw in the towel. He's not going to be returning this season, but I mean, still, good for him. What a phenomenal return from that injury, and he definitely a team to look out for 2024.
Yeah, without a doubt, the Jets, with the Rodgers whole situation, it would just been stupid to start him. But obviously, really, what the Jets got to do is just really regroup for next season. And now moving on to another game where the Chiefs still a lot of problems in their hands. And let's start with this receiving corps for this Chiefs team. Once again, this receiving corps was struggling a bit, especially with that Kadarius Toney drop that led to the interception, which got Mahomes pretty heated in the game. Which I really wouldn't have thought it would have really been a really big momentum change, especially the way the Patriots were playing. I mean, sure, it was a close game to start out to begin with, but obviously the Chiefs just kept picking it up. And Bailey Zappi, with the turnovers. Same with Patrick Mahomes. Those turnovers were, a thing that's, not too, I guess you want to say too common with Mahomes, but it's, it's been happening lately, especially with the way the receivers play here. And obviously, this is the thing for Kadarius Toney as well. I don't expect Mahomes to be trusting Kadarius Toney in the long run. I know Mahomes has been defending him, this whole season, and then a couple games some crucial drops he had. Obviously Mahomes, the quarterback, defending him and throwing him under the bus. But obviously that footage did show Mahomes is fed up. He's done with I wouldn't say done, in that sense with Tony, but in the sense where like I really thought he was gonna keep throwing him the ball. He was just not gonna catch the ball. And then this New England team, I believe they still hold the second pick right now, and they're really in need of a quarterback situation. Sure, Bailey Zappi was looking good as the backup and starting these last couple games, but realistically, they really need a quarterback, especially with all this with the controversy with the whole thing with Bill Belichick, which we already talked about before. They will be parting ways in the offseason, but really Patriots just to settle down the way they're in right now. Just tank for that second pick and hopefully get Drake May.
I mean, I don't know. Okay, if I'm gonna just throw this out, I mean, I'm not really buying the Drake May hype if we're just gonna throw that in there. I mean, from what I say, if the Bears end up with that number 1 pick, they might just go wide receiver. Caleb Williams might be right there for them. That would be, the dream scenario for them. But, like you say, just tank it out, see what you get for a quarterback. But of course, let's move it into Giants Saints. Obviously, this was our one disagreement from last week, and definitely don't really see any reason to disagree here with the Giants getting absolutely pummeled by the Saints. I mean, Derek Carr, very, very much a statement win for him. Obviously, we know all the turmoil that's been going on inside the Saints organization. Seems to see that some of the guys on that team been throwing him under the bus, but clearly he came out and he came out firing with a 3 touchdown game. Just a phenomenal game for him. And obviously we know his capabilities as a franchise quarterback, and just really showed it out here for the Giants. Obviously, I know you were really hyping up Tommy DeVito in the past couple weeks, and obviously he kind of disappointed you a little bit. I mean, sure, he showed his flashes. He did have, I mean, for what it's worth, a decent game. Running the ball, and sure, he played all right, but obviously, 6 points didn't get it done. Obviously, didn't get into the end zone, but I mean, just as a whole, we see the same thing with the Giants. You would think, they should be tanking their way out. I mean, those last couple wins really have pretty much, hurt their draft opportunities. They're going to end up probably outside of the top 5 now, and that's really going to hurt for them moving forward. But, the Saints right now, they keep pace. Obviously, a big game Thursday night that we're going to get into right now, but stay tied, just losing on the tiebreaker with the Bucs. We'll see what they can do moving with the NFC South.
Yeah, obviously this was a really big win for the Saints, especially how very, very neck to neck this AFC South division is. But obviously, winning it out them and just expecting a loss for the other two is really what they're gonna need. Speaking of the AFC South, let's move on to this atrocity between both these teams, the Falcons and the Panthers. I mean, it was just these field goals, man. It was just a really boring game to watch. I mean, I had to sit through this, and I'm just like really like bored out of my mind. But Panthers came away winning this game. Bryce Young, I mean, he's already fed up. I know the last couple of drives with his facial expression, he was just fed up. He was already done with this game. I think he's done with the season and just regroup for the offseason, get the weapons he needs, that was pretty much the story for the Panthers. Bryce Young has no one, and obviously with all the narratives like, oh, if he had weapons, he could do this, that. Hypothetical situations, but when we really look into this Carolina Panthers team, it's young, this defense is young, so is this offense, but there's not really a superstar there that gives the impact for Bryce Young to help him win. With the Falcons, on the other hand, this game, it does hurt their the NFC South title a little bit harder just because of their division record. And if it comes to the Saints, the Bucs, and the Falcons tying in in the end of the season, it obviously comes down to the division record and who had the better record of the 3. But obviously, nothing too special about this game. 7-9, nothing really to talk about. So just straight boringness all around.
Yeah, I'm not really gonna get into no more. I mean, what you said was already probably more than enough. So let's get into a really good game here with the Rams at the Commanders. Obviously, as I've keep saying, I was in attendance. I thankfully got to take this one in person. I mean, it was a good game. At least it started out that way with, I mean, just offensive firepower. I mean, I will say, Kyron Williams, those 2 fumbles really was cause for alarm. I was really thinking we were going to start going heavier on Royce Freeman, but I mean, look, he redeemed himself. He got into the end zone. So that's the important thing here. I'm glad McVay didn't really just take him out. He kept his confidence up, and he let him get himself back into the game. So hopefully this doesn't turn into a problem moving into the future. Possibly the playoffs, but see how he contains that. Obviously, it was his first 2 fumbles of his career, so hopefully that doesn't become a problem. But I mean, we're up 28-7 in the fourth quarter, and for whatever reason, we just let the Commanders start fighting back into this. I believe there was about 8 minutes left, and they bring in Jacoby Brissett, and I'm telling my dad like, "Oh, it looks like they're just throwing in the towel," and he just throws a bomb to Terry McLaurin. On who else but Darion Kendrick, which I've been doing my best to stay calm with him. I've been kind of building up, like, he's gonna have time, but I'm getting restless. He was a big reason why we didn't pull out that game against Baltimore, and he was the reason this wasn't a blowout. So, I mean, I'm getting pretty restless with him. I really want to see him benched for this game against the Saints. He's going to be a liability. He's going to be the reason we missed the playoffs. So I want to see Jacoby Durant. I want to see Trey Tomlinson. I want to see anyone but anyone but Darion Kendrick right now at the cornerback position. But I mean, back to the good. Apart from Darion, there was so much good in this game. I mean, I'll chalk out those 13 points in the fourth quarter just to him, but defensively, just great stands. Obviously, even when we kept getting them into the goal line because of those stupid penalties, I mean, defense just kept holding them out. I believe it was like 8 plays. Because of all the penalties, we had to run 8 plays on the goal line, but kept making stops. The defense is just looking phenomenal. I always preach about how that crunch time defense, when we need them most, they fall through. They did their part. So I'm really glad with how they looked right now. And obviously Matthew Stafford, he was a big piece himself. That once again, turnovers are down. Biggest narrative with him. He's just playing some of his best ball right now. And I'll just throw one more thing in. Cooper Kupp with that long, I believe it was 70 yards, something like that. Just really nice to see him finally get back into this. And right now, as I alluded to with the Packers game, we sneak into the 7th seed right now. Obviously, right now we're facing your Cowboys in the playoff picture. We'll see how this looks moving forward.
Yeah, obviously there's still a little bit of flaws within that Rams team, but obviously picking it up, and as we talked about earlier in the season, obviously really, really exceeding expectations. And let's get into my game. Honestly, I'm gonna just keep it a buck. As soon as I saw the news that we finally clinched playoffs after the Atlanta game and the Panthers game, I don't know why I thought to my head, like, I swear to God, if we lose this game after clinching playoffs, like as a sign of them just like not trying, I don't know what I'll do. And they got blown out. But obviously there was a lot of things to take consideration in this game. Other than the first drive of that Cowboys team, from the Cowboys, after that everything was it was dog shit. I don't know what McCarthy was cooking up. The O-line was not blocking. Receivers literally were not getting open. And then somehow, some way, people are still blaming Dak. And this wasn't Dak's fault at all. I mean, come on, he was getting no help whatsoever. He was doing all he can. I really wanted him to get out a little early in the second half, so his stats wouldn't get too outweighted, and he threw a pick, and now everyone loses their minds. I kind of expected it, but it was a game the Bills really needed to win. It was a must win for the Bills, and they really played hard out there. And Cowboys, with getting the 1 seed, it's still very doable, but with the loss of Philly, which we will get into later, it still helps us a little bit better. But with San Francisco and everything, it's just all over the place. But I think I'm mature to the point where losses like this, I kind of just overlook it and see what went wrong. And obviously what went wrong is this whole team as a whole and the defense. The rush defense. That's the story of the game here. That's how it was on last season. Horrible rush defense, and obviously with the loss of Jonathan Hankins, who is our great run stopper. He really is. He's a huge impact to our rush defense. And Jared, and then freaking Jared Cook. Not Jared Cook. James Cook, excuse me. James Cook just has a phenomenal generational ass game against us. And they literally just kept running on us. They kept running. Josh Allen literally didn't have to do anything. But there's a lot of calls that, really could have switched momentum. The penalties, 14 points or 10 points off penalties, which really screwed us over. And if it wasn't for those penalties, sure, I could say that, could have been a whole different game, whole different momentum change. The fumble, the forced fumble in the second half that, they didn't call away because the Bills actually, clock management got with the snap right away. That fumble in their own territory, it could have changed the whole momentum of the game, but obviously it didn't. And really, just as a whole, it was just a really just another game where the Dallas Cowboys just went dysfunctional really as a whole. And obviously I know Dak Prescott, he's going to pick it up once again. And, I don't want to jinx myself, but we haven't had back-to-back losses since I believe 2021. I don't want to jinx myself. That's just, a fact that I want to throw in there. Hopefully it stays like that. I really hope I didn't jinx it at all, but obviously still a lot of implications that came up with Dallas and Buffalo Bills. They're a way better team than what the record says.
Yeah. Obviously, we've been talking about this. This game was going to tell us a lot about the Buffalo Bills, and obviously, they can definitely win out from here, and they're definitely looking like a scary team to look into coming into the playoffs. Obviously, let's look into another really scary team here in the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, very much an easy game here that we kind of already implied. Obviously, this was a game I highlighted on Sunday, and I mean, we see it right here, 45-29, as we expected. No surprises here, just everyone firing on all cylinders. Kind of a game you don't really care to talk much into, just because how expected this was. I mean, yet another phenomenal game for Brock Purdy. What else can you say? Almost 250, 4 touchdowns. Just, I mean, really filling himself up. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, he's one of the more game manager type guys that I'm gonna die on that hill. He's not he's not the type to lead a team, but because of the team he has around him, he's gonna win MVP. It's the unfortunate case that we're seeing. Honestly, to this point, I would have loved to see Dak win it. I really expected him to be the front runner, but I think this game against the Bills is gonna hurt his stock a lot. And right now, Brock Purdy is looking just phenomenal. I mean, if anything, McCaffrey should be the one to win it, but I mean, still, it's gonna go to Brock Purdy. But I mean, not really much more to say about the Niners. To be honest, for the Cardinals, I mean, hey, they're helping their draft stock. That's the important thing here. So I mean, good for them. Obviously, a draft bowl coming in for their next game. So we will have to wait and see for them.
Yeah, obviously the Niners, this is the team to be in the whole NFL as a whole. And then with Brock Purdy, sure, yards after catch prediction, make all the narratives you want, but unfortunately, it does seem to me that he could be the front runner of the MVP race. Now moving on to potentially another great game, as we saw from the Ravens and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now this was a game for the Jacksonville Jaguars that I would say it was a must-win, especially when it came to them winning the division. Obviously now it's pretty much all tied up between them, the Texans, and the Colts. Trevor Lawrence, I don't know what's going on with Trevor Lawrence, man. I mean, he was doing good for the beginning of the season. Obviously, I know that injury not that long ago. I would couldn't make the argument that it's kind of stung him a bit, but Lamar Jackson, I mean, he's really just getting it done with his Ravens team. The receivers are finally, doing what they're supposed to do. Not too many drops, which is good. And then Isaiah Likely really filling in the shoes for the loss of Mark Andrews earlier in the season. He's really stepping up for the tight end, really becoming one of Lamar's favorite targets to throw the ball to. And it's really looking nice. Likely building up his stock, and it's looking really great. Defense for the Ravens, it's good. Don't get me wrong, but obviously there's some flaws there within the, I would say mostly within the secondary, where T-Law and the Jags were getting the use of them. But what I really want to get into is before the second half, which really I would say shifted the whole momentum of the game. With the Jaguars were driving right before halftime, and then obviously them not spiking the ball, going straight into shotgun, and then that play that went nowhere, that really killed the whole momentum of the Jags team. And if you just were to spike the ball, go over a play, actually go into it, I want to say it would have been a touchdown, and it would have really, shifted the whole energy and the momentum from this game, which, could have been the more likely winnable for the Jacksonville Jaguars team. But obviously that mistake really killed their chances. And then second half, it was just Lamar Jackson really putting this team on his back, really building his case here. And then obviously they have a really huge game next week against the Niners, which again we will get into. But really the Jacksonville Jaguars, they have a lot of things to fix, especially with the last couple of games. And once again, it is December, so anything could happen, and it's going to be really, really important when it comes to them trying to win the division.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if we're really being honest, I mean, I know that big, the play at halftime was, a big tell. It was only 10-0, but if we're being honest, the Ravens really dominated this game from start to finish. And so, I mean, they're really showing their superiority right now in the AFC as a whole. And, we're going to get to see a really good game that obviously we're going to talk about right here coming up. But of course, moving into Monday night, massive surprise here with the Eagles and the Seahawks. And obviously you get really happy with this one, puts your Cowboys back on top. Drew Lock, absolute masterclass right here. Obviously, that late drive, that game-winning drive, just a phenomenal pass to JSN. Let's just, start with that. Nobody expected this. I mean, obviously, most people kind of expect, Geno Smith. He was active. He was looking like he was going to be the guy. But hey, Drew Lock came and he surprised us all. Just a career game for him. In all honesty, maybe the stats don't say, but the way he led this game, just a phenomenal way. And Seahawks right back in the playoff picture. For what it's worth, I mean, I know right now the Rams do hold that tiebreaker because we swept them, but they went out. They got a very favorable schedule right now. It's looking very likely for them to make the playoffs, and that's what scares me more than anything. But of course, the Eagles, the big story here. Let's talk about Bradbury. He was basically the whole reason the Eagles ended up losing this game. Obviously, we see he was the coverage guy on each of those catches in that final drive, and obviously a very poor coverage on JSN on that touchdown. And of course, on that attempt at a game-winning drive with Jalen Hurts, I mean, Isaac himself with a very poor showing today. And at the end, a lot of the talk, was the toe down with Julian Love on that interception. Obviously, we can really tell it was. The replays did show that, and just topped the cherry on top on a very disappointing game for Jalen Hurts, which it's kind of been a very disappointing run as of late for the Eagles. The panic really does start to set in. They really are looking like a very vulnerable team right now. Honestly, very similar to what we kind of started talking about the Lions. This is what the panic does start to set in. They very likely are going to have to settle in with a wild card spot, which we'll wait and see, because they do have a very favorable schedule, so we'll see. But just a very disappointing loss for the Eagles as a whole. But of course, that is going to wrap us up in our Week 15 recap. Our predictions, hey, we just had that one disagreement in the Saints game, so I get to just add myself back up to a 4-game separation with you. We'll see. I believe we have 1 or 2 disagreements in this week, so we'll just have to wait and see. But Christian, I'll let you get started with your Cowboys game.
Yeah, man. So once again, we have another very important game, traveling to Miami to face this, highly powered offensively well-rounded Dolphins team. And this is the one thing the Cowboys struggle in, and is on the road. We're 3-4 on the road, 7-0 at home. I mean, the big margin, the big sample size really just shows you this type of Dallas team is. We suck on the road, man. And this game, and unfortunately, for the first time, I'm going against my Cowboys for prediction's sake. For the prediction's sake specifically, I have to choose Miami. Obviously, we still have a great chance to win this game. I know Dak's gonna put this team on his back and finally get us back to where we are. But the thing I really have a little hope for is the defense of the Miami Dolphins with Jalen Ramsey. He's really gonna put on a show. Don't get me wrong, he's really gonna show CeeDee Lamb. He's really gonna have to try and get by him. And that's the thing that's really gonna do. But if that's the case, hopefully the pass game does get more wide open, gets Cooks and Gallup more involved. And then for Ferguson, who's really having a career, just the second year in the league, really fulfilling the shoes of that tight end 1 spot. But really, this is a must win for the Cowboys, regardless if he want us to have a potential chance of getting that 1 seed.
Yeah, obviously, very big surprise to see you finally, maybe setting some realistic standards and actually, picking against the Cowboys for once. I'm going to agree with you there. It is a very surprising look there, but we'll see if the Cowboys can pull that out. Now into my game, Thursday night. Gotta say once again, I will be in attendance once again. Got to get to the last 3 home games for my Rams, and here with a big game under the lights in prime time. I mean, honestly, this is a game that really, honestly, at the start of the season, I wasn't too worried about. But, now looking, I mean, look out with Derek Carr. He's definitely looking, he's got the Saints team looking really good. I'm sure Michael Thomas, I believe he wasn't going to be able to come back. I've been, hearing the rumblings, but even if he does come back, I wouldn't expect him to be much of a factor for the most part. But honestly, the key thing here is going to be, how well can we contain Chris Olave. He's basically, my main concern here. And honestly, a very sneaky good defense that the Saints do have. So just wait and see, however our side of the ball really does contain them, I'm expecting to really be able to pull this one out. In all honesty, I do expect Stafford to continue his pace at really playing some of his best ball. And of course, as I mentioned from last week, I did expect Cooper and Puka to finally be able to mesh against that Commanders team. I'm expecting some of the same for the most part here against the Saints. I would really hope to see a lot of more higher volume for the both of them. And of course, Kyren Williams, hopefully he gets into the end zone once again, and he can hopefully have a game that he can bring those turnovers back down.
Yeah, man, this is a really important game for both these two teams, especially with playoff implication on the line here. And that defense of the Saints, sneaky good. I always praise them. That's really going to give a a tough time for Matthew Stafford. So hopefully he can find a way around that. And as for probably my highlight game, which is probably gonna be the game of the season, it's gonna be the Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers going at it. This is the one game, the two top teams in the league going at it. Brock Purdy, this is really gonna show Brock Purdy, with his MVP, and I do feel if Brock Purdy comes away with this game, I think he has the MVP on lock without a doubt. As much as it hurts me the way Dak's been playing phenomenal football this whole season, arguably his best season of his career. If the San Francisco 49ers come away with this team and it's really heavily held by Brock Purdy, he's got the MVP on lock, most likely on lock regardless. Obviously, a lot of things people want McCaffrey as well, which, not too bad either, but it's going to be a great game regardless. Purdy and Jackson is going to be a really good game by both these two quarterbacks. Obviously, these two quarterbacks have really showed a huge impact on this team, the way Lamar Jackson is playing as well. Really, the thing that really scares me right now is just how the defense is going to play against this really high-powered offense by the 49ers. I mean, you got great guys on that defense from the Baltimore Ravens, little flaws in the secondary. But once Ayuk and Debo, they start getting loose, it's going to be a lot of help for this defense. Same with Kittle and then McCaffrey, man. That pass rush, that rush defense of the Ravens, it's good. It's up there. It's one of the pretty good ones there. But with McCaffrey in the backfield, it's going to put a lot of work for this Ravens defense. But obviously this offense of the Ravens, Lamar's going to have to keep scoring pretty much on every drive if they want to have at least slight chance against this 49ers team. I obviously went with the Baltimore Ravens on this one. So did you. We did feel that, San Fran's due for a loss here. They're due for a loss, and this game's going to really show it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, maybe some personal beliefs going into that one, but I definitely do have a very big belief in the Ravens right now. So I mean, hope to see them pull that one out. And honestly, in my highlight game, it's more of an unconventional pick, maybe, but it's a pretty important game. Looking at the playoff implications, the Jaguars and the Buccaneers. And I mean, sure, it's the uncertainty. Is Trevor Lawrence going to make it back? Obviously, we know he was dealing with that high ankle sprain recently, and now he's in concussion protocol. So, if he's not able to make it back, we will wait and see. Regardless of that, I mean, he's pretty injured regardless. He's not going to be at 100% whether he plays or not. So, I mean, I'm going to go with the upset here. I'm expecting the Buccaneers to come away with this. I mean, for none other reason than look at how Baker Mayfield's been playing recently, and obviously he's coming off arguably the best game of his career. He's just really meshing well with everyone here, and I mean obviously look at their receiving core and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Just everyone meshing perfectly well, and even that Bucs defense obviously maybe not too much, but maybe showing signs of that 2021 Bucs team. Just very. They're kind of, I mean, what I said in the recap, they're getting hot at the right time. And looking at the Jaguars, they're coming off three losses in a row. They're playing some of their worst ball at the moment. They really look to be losing the AFC South. So I mean, it's just a matter of who gets hot at the right time. And right now the Buccaneers are very hot, so let's really expect them to come away with this one. But of course, that is going to wrap up our mini preview for Week 16, and it's going to wrap up our Week 15 recap video as a whole. Obviously, a lot of great games that we really got to get into here. We're gonna have a lot of great talking points to come into next week. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys can like and subscribe. We'll see you back here on the next one.